What's going on, Workforce? Brian here, and today we have an interview brought to you by TheBunnyKnight, posting this over at Reddit. As with all interviews and things of posts like this, we'd like to make sure that you go and encourage you to use the link in the description of this video. Go give TheBunnyKnight some love for taking the time to write up this summary, which is coming from Famitsu's Yoshi-P E3 2019 interview. There's a lot of really good information out there, and whether you've been with the game for a while or this is going to be your first expansion with Shadowbringers, I want to kind of share some what you can expect and what this kind of really means as we dive into the interview itself. And so let's go ahead and just do it. Let's dive in. So first of all, I like this line. Yoshi-P was surprised with the warm reception he actually received at the E3 presentation. He expected people to kind of really ignore it because it was an MMO, and this makes me beyond thrilled because obviously as an MMO, its popularity is just growing and growing and growing, especially with like WoW issues and all that what's happened over the last year. I think the hype and the expectation for Shadowbringers is at an all-time high, and I think that's something I'm really happy that he got to experience, is that really kind of seeing how global and how popular this is becoming, because it's truly a work of art in my opinion. So now Yoshi-P said he was invited to check out Cyberpunk 2077 and other games. However, he has not been able to leave the interview booth long enough. So hopefully he gets the chance to do that, because I think obviously as a creator and how his mind works and how he's a leader, it will be really obviously exciting to see if he sees these games. Like, he also has a big influence and big, fandom for Diablo, the Diablo series, like how that can impact like the game overall. Like, he might see something and be like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Let's bring that into our game. So I hope that he gets the opportunity while he's out at E3 to actually have some fun, kind of go check out what other people are making as well. I think overall, it's just, you want to have fun when he, with all the work he's doing. And yeah, hopefully he'll get to do that. And so he said that regarding obviously the state of Final Fantasy XIV, they've already implemented feedback, and the development team is really just focusing on the bug checking phase. Like, that's exactly what I would expect a couple of weeks out. There's like what it would be essentially called code freeze. It's just crushing the bugs, getting that fixed. And a true code freeze is like after the bugs are done, you kind of have a date and say, yep, that's the build. Let's rock with it. Usually it's going to end up being a couple of days prior to the launch of Shadowbringers, so that way it's ready to go. It's a-okay. I cannot wait, guys. This is going to be great. I think I said 26th on another video. It's the 28th for early access, so be sure to pre-order if you want to take advantage. Even if you can't take advantage of the 28th, for some reason you're out of town, the earring is far worth it, so make sure you do that. He says regarding the raid release, it's going to work like it normally does. If you don't know how that works, from July the 2nd, which is the official release, to 2 weeks after July the 2nd will be the first tier raid, the normal version. Then 2 weeks after that, you'll have the Savage version release. So essentially, from July 2nd, you add 4 weeks, that's when Savage drops. They do this especially with just the launch of the expansion so that people don't like burn through the story, skip it, ignore it completely, because there's no raid for them to be ready for at that time. So they want people, especially at launch, to enjoy the story, that you can get through it at whatever pace you want, but you're not racing to try to get to that Savage or that world first clear. Now, with 5.2, that changes. That all drops on day one. So note that there will be world firsts races happening, and they will happen obviously with this expansion, but it doesn't happen on drop. It does not happen on the second. Now, regarding primal fights, they've got some changes that they're making. They say traditionally they've always kind of been set into first half and second half. However, while they're still going to use that pattern, they're also going to change it up a bit with Shadowbringers. So one should have that pattern, maybe one will be a little bit different, something that we haven't seen before, a couple changes to how kind of the fights progress. Now, they said that, as before, they will have extreme versions and they will reward weapons and other accessories, which that is awesome to see, that's not changing. And it should also, those weapons usually look really cool. Now, he says this time for the raid content, Eden will tie into the main scenario quest, and this is amazing. Now, in my kind of summary analysis, I did not talk about the tree in the middle of the elemental wheel. That obviously is an allusion to Eden, we presume, but the fact that it's tying into the main scenario quest, all that coming together, is really good. Coil, the Binding Coil Bahamut, really tied into the story. It kind of also finished off the 1.0 story. It really brought everything together, and I think it did the game a good service. With the last two raids, they've somewhat kind of tied, in a way, like Alexander really didn't. Omega more so because they brought him into the main scenario with Heaven's Word. And so I'm hoping that this is MSQ because the normal difficulty tends to be clearable and they tend to also bring in the echo. I don't think it's something that's going to be stored, like people won't be gated behind it, hopefully. Now, that's just my opinion, so I'm excited to see that. And then with Savage, that's where that challenge and that real, like, you know, you're looking for that hardcore content comes in. And then obviously we have Ultimate as well now. So they said the changes regarding the raids, though, the reward system, regarding normal mode, item tokens are going to be spread around the floors more evenly. So you can, for example, get shafts from earlier floors instead of spamming the fourth one. Now in Savage, the number of jobs has increased, so similar to that, the weapon coffers will be implemented. And for example, they'll have an accessory coffer for jobs that are used at the one time will drop. They said kind of the wording was unclear here. The direct drops will remain only for the weapons on the fourth floor, so you still can get 2 weapons a week. As for the felt door bosses on the fourth floor, they were too long and frustrating to re-clear, so they will no longer split the fourth boss into 2 fights, but try something different this time around. Now, the next ultimate fight is being prepared for 5.1, and while this is not yet in the progress of tuning, their aim is to make it closer to the ultimate binding coil of Bahamut difficulty. They do want to avoid looping mechanics in both Savage and the ultimate that will make you feel like you're just doing the same thing past a certain point. The new ultimate will probably feature random elements to avoid repetitive patterns. Now, we'll have to see how that plays out. Like when it comes down to the world first thing, they try to avoid random in some of this stuff, namely because they're concerned that it's like, well, the only reason you actually got that clear is because randomly it chose to do this mechanic over that mechanic, and there's no way that when it randomly chooses this one and randomly chooses like a set of it, could you ever clear it? So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Honestly, I don't have any problem with it. I think random is a nice way of spicing it up every time. So you kind of adjust to the mechanic at hand as opposed to kind of a choreographed dance. That's just how I'm feeling. Now, this is not necessarily disappointing, but it's really good to know because that means I'm going to go out and buy a Fantasia because I'm going to be job changing. Race changing. No free Fantasia with this expansion this time. Prior in Heaven's Word, because we had a new race, they provided it. We're not doing that in Shadowbringers. Good to know. Now, he says since Hrothgar will have hairstyles tied to their character creation options rather than being separately selectable, you will not be able to apply unlockable hairstyles, but they might implement more face types after 5.0. And as for Viera, there are some legacy hairstyles that they'll be able to eventually implement, but not all of them. Some of them unlockable hairstyles should be supported and others may not. That's just based off the real raw differences in these races. I'm not personally disappointed in that, but I'm also not somebody who's been collecting hairstyles. So if you are, let me know how that makes you feel, and if you're specifically switching to these races, if that is frustrating, disappointing, or if you're like, okay, makes sense. Anyway, so we're going to jump into some crafting and gathering now. So items or actions such as Brigats, which are absolutely quintessential, will now be implemented as base for all classes. So you don't have to level them all just to be able to level up. Additionally, you'll now be able to see how much you're improving progress quality with the actions before you press them in the UI. I'm really excited to see that. Image of the system is going to be showed off in the producer live letter on Friday. While the base systems for crafters and gatherers will remain the same, bonuses for using high quality materials will be increased. Now, retainers and marker boards will be accessible on the 1st, which is good because it would be unfortunate if that was not the case. The story will explain why that is possible, but the gameplay wise, nothing's going to change. However, you will have to advance so far in the story to be able to access the retainers in the market within the world on the 1st. So yeah, it would be so funny. It's like, well, this is its own market and this is, like gameplay wise, it's exactly what needed to happen. Now there are going to be updates to the retainer interface as well, but it is still impossible to have multiple retainers out at once during the load that's on the servers. And then use of the trust system other than the 5.0 scenario dungeons is currently under discussion. So how I interpret that line right here isn't saying that it's for 4.0 or 3.0 or anything like that. It's just within the 5.0 content, the trust is based off the scenario. And so then they're talking about like maybe side dungeons, maybe end game dungeons. I don't know. So if it relates to the story, they're planning the trust system for it. If it doesn't, it's still being discussed if they want to go ahead and do that work or not. Now, the level cap increase for new mechanics for Blue Mage are planned for 5.1, and new PvP contents are scheduled for 5.1 as well. I was hoping for 5.05, the mid-tier patch of the 5.0 expansion, but 5.1, I guess that makes sense. It's a little disappointing, but we knew PvP was coming at 5.1. So 5.1 obviously starting to shape out as well, and that should be an interesting patch because we get the first tier of the Nier raid, which will be exciting. Now, he says only PS4 clients will be allowed to remember their password. They kind of show this off in the dev blog. This is because they get relying on the additional security for PSN for login. Now, they say it is not impossible to have it on PC, but they're simply taking precautions. I hope they change their mind. I think that personally that just falls into the personal responsibility. I wouldn't mind it having remembering my password. It doesn't bother me specifically, but again, that's like the risk that you take, like with anything. Like if you have it remember your password, it's like not having a password on that machine, and there's already the IP registration and things like that. I get it's a risk because it is your account, and I don't know. Maybe the risk is too high. I'd love to know what you guys think about that. And they currently have no announcements regarding additional collabs for Final Fantasy XIV. Guys, link in the description. Go give TheBunnyKnight some love for posting the summary from Famitsu from E3. This is some really good stuff. We are in the final sprint here towards Shadowbringers. I am beyond excited. I am very excited for you, whether this is your third expansion or if this is your first. Welcome. I hope you have an amazing time with this. Remember to take and get some snacks beforehand if you're planning a marathon gameplay session. Be safe, be smart, and have a great time. Anyway, guys, for WorkToGame, my name is Brian. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a phenomenal day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Hey guys, it's me, Brian. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you're new here, we hope you hit that subscribe button. Check us out. We talk a lot about video games, and we hope to at least hear from you in the comments below. We also try to respond to our comments. We really appreciate the comments, the discussion, all the various points of view that everybody is so kindly, I guess, and politely or impolitely shares with us from time to time. So anyway, guys, again, thanks for watching this video. We hope you hit that like button. We hope you hit that subscribe button. Come back for more content each and every day. We post a lot around here, and we'd love to hear from you about what you like about video games and everything, and especially if you have any questions that you're stuck on in anything. So anyway, signing off. See you next time.